Welcome to Just a Minute. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it is my pleasure to welcome our many listeners throughout the world, and of course particularly in this country of Great Britain. And also it's a great pleasure to welcome 4 exciting and experienced players of the game. We welcome back the outrageous leprechaun of television comedy, Graham Norton. The flamboyant mistress of stand-up comedy, Jenny Eclair. The irrepressible exponent of improvised comedy, Tony Hawks. And the master of the lyric phrase and West End musicals, Tim Rice. Will you please welcome all 4 of them? And as usual, I am going to ask them to speak, if they can, on a subject that I will give them, and they will try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviating from the subject. Beside me sits Janet Staplehurst, who's going to help me keep a score, and she will blow a whistle when the 60 seconds are up. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the Turner Sims Concert Hall, which is part of the University of Southampton. And we have a delightful audience of sot-on people and further afield, and of course students, who are going to cheer us on our way as we begin the show with Graham Norton. Graham, the subject, very aptly, is My Philosophy of Life. Tell us something about that. In just a minute, starting now.
My philosophy of life is a simple one. Whenever you're feeling down and depressed, just remember that a problem shared is gossip. Yes, whenever something bad happens to you, you're bringing joy to literally hundreds of people. You break a leg, 15 people laugh heartily.
Well, Jenny Eclair, you pressed your buzzer.
I did, only because he said people twice.
He did say people twice.
No,
Yes.
yep. Very good, very good.
And it was a correct challenge, Jenny.
I'm so glad.
Yes, and you get a point for a correct challenge. And you take over the subject, and there are 38 seconds available. Tell us something about My Philosophy of Life, starting now.
My philosophy of life is to whistle. Even if it doesn't cheer you up, it'll irritate everybody else. Ah! Eat, drink, and be merry.
And Tim Rice is challenged.
Repetition of ha ha ha.
No, she didn't say ha.
Ah!
No, it was a single monosyllabic type of laugh.
I'm good at monosyllabic.
So, Jenny, an incorrect challenge. You keep the subject. Another point for an incorrect challenge. 30 seconds still available. My Philosophy of Life, starting now.
And if you're feeling a little low, get a lager out of the fridge, nice and chilled. Or 3. What else can you do? Shop, go shopping. Oh, isn't it marvellous shopping?
Tim Rice.
I thought there was a hesitation there.
No,
It
she
was a
said shop
stutter,
and then go
actually.
shopping.
A stutter.
Just because I have a stutter.
Oh, sorry. I withdraw it completely.
No,
I think
Tim,
I
we
should
like
be fined
people
a
who are
point.
keen. We like keenness. But Jenny didn't deviate. She didn't hesitate. She has 22 seconds still, with another point, of course. My Philosophy of Life, starting now.
Retail therapy is a lot more effective than chucking huge sums of money at a shrink. There's not much in life that can't be put right by a new pair of kitten heels, especially if you're a woman.
Graham Norton, new challenge.
Oh, did hesitate a bit.
There was a
After-
hesitation.
I
After
ran
the
out
woman.
of steam, love. I
Yeah.
ran out of personality. That's me done.
Oh, yeah.
Graham, correct challenge. A point to you. You've got the subject back. My Philosophy of Life, 10 seconds, starting now.
My philosophy of life is I think, therefore I must still be sober. I must do something about that.
Tony challenged.
Did he have a different philosophy of life when he first spoke?
He did have a different philosophy of life.
I wonder whether...
But he could have a multi-faceted philosophy of life. So
Yeah, but it's not my philosophies of life, it's my...
I changed my philosophy of life. Listening to Jenny, I was musing.
I
You know
think-
what? I'm changing my philosophy of life.
You've got a full minute to do it in, why not?
Exactly.
And I think if you have a philosophy of life, it can embrace a number of different attitudes.
Yeah.
So you have another point, Graham, and you have 5 seconds. My Philosophy of Life, starting now.
My philosophy of life is a constantly evolving thing. I can't finish.
In this game, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point. And this occasion it was Graham Norton, who has a strong lead at the end of the first round, closely followed by Jenny Eclair. And Jenny, you take the next round. The subject is sushi. Tell us something about sushi in just a minute, starting now.
Oh, how fashionable. You eat it with chopsticks. The only cutlery I feel you can wear in your hair successfully. It's raw fish wrapped up in seaweed, or as the Japanese call it, nori. Apparently, it's an art form, constructing sushi, a bit like making savoury licorice all sorts. You need rice,
Tim, you've challenged.
Hesitated on rice.
Yes, you thought of the right. So, Tim, a correct challenge, a point, and 39 seconds available. Tell us something about sushi, starting now.
I went into a Japanese restaurant recently and was greeted, "Arthur," said the man at the door, and I was extremely impressed by his friendliness as he directed me towards a delicious bowl of sushi. I have not eaten this wonderful Japanese dish.
Graham Norton challenge.
Oh, there were 2 Japanese.
Yes, a Japanese restaurant.
I wasn't the only person in the restaurant.
No. Graham, a correct challenge, a point, and sushi's with you, 23 seconds, starting now.
Sushi is a sort of anti-food. Yes, they killed it, but then felt so guilty they didn't want to cook it. Leave the poor fish alone, it suffered enough. And then you have to sit there with it. Oh, it's revolting. I'll go further. It's wrong. There's something deeply disturbing about food that has unprepared.
Oh, just a minute. Before the whistle went, Tony challenged.
Repetition of food.
Yes, I'm afraid you mentioned food before. And
Fair enough, Tony.
Yes.
Well, hang on.
And I'm
It's
afraid
not that
to be
easy.
fair-
I've got to keep going for a full second
I
now.
know. It's half a second, actually.
Oh.
Your challenge did come in before the whistle went. Half a second, sushi, with you, Tony, starting now.
My philosophy of life.
So, Tony Hawk's got the point for speaking as the whistle went, and he's now equal with Jenny Eclair in second place behind Graham Norton. Tim Rice, your turn to begin. The subject, skating on thin ice. Tell us something about that in this game, starting now.
Skating on thin ice. That is my philosophy. I believe in living close to the cutting edge. And also, I'm extremely bold, a gambler, a man who will risk anything, which is meant by the phrase skating on thin ice. How important it is to zoom and flow gracefully across the frozen water.
Tony Hawk's challenge.
He's overestimating how important it is. It's not important at all to zoom or flow across the water. In fact, it's silly to zoom across the water.
So, are you saying it's deviation because skating on thin ice is a very delicate
Well, frankly,
balance?
he was skating on thin ice all the way through there. Was there a deviation then? Or, I don't
Well,
If
know.
you move fast, you won't go in.
it's a very difficult one on which to judge, but I will give the benefit of the doubt to Tim and say he did illustrate that he was skating on thin ice, even though he was going with some style and panache. So, don't go too far, Tim. Benefit of the doubt to you. 34 seconds. Skating on thin ice, starting now.
Coupled with my skating on thin ice is style and panache. This is
Jenny, challenge.
That's 2 panaches. You can have too much panache.
No, I have panache.
You said panache.
Yes.
You started him off.
Jenny, you listened very well, but you weren't looking at the who was speaking.
I got the wrong bloke.
You got the wrong bloke.
You're both old. I know that.
Oh, you've lost an awful lot of brownie points there. You've gained some friends in the audience. God knows why they clapped. I don't know.
I wonder if Jenny will win now.
So an incorrect challenge. 29 seconds with you, Tim, still skating on thin ice, starting now.
Women sometimes skate on thin ice when they accuse a man of being older than he really is. This is disgraceful and rude, but it's not really worth the risk because things can turn viciously against the female in question.
Jenny challenged.
He hesitated.
Yes, he did hesitate. 15 seconds, skating on thin ice, Jenny, starting now.
I prefer to skate on thick ice at Streatham Ice Rink where it's thermostatically controlled. Round the rink I zoom.
Tony challenged.
Deviation. We want to hear about her skating on thin ice.
Yes, that was deviation. Tony, you have the subject. You have 9 seconds. Skating on thin ice, starting now.
I'm not remotely interested in skating on thin ice. However...
Tim Rice challenge.
Well, I mean, he's given himself away, hasn't he? He's
He may not remotely interested, but he'll still talk on the subject, you see.
I doubt it. He spent 8 of 9 seconds saying he was not interested.
No, he didn't. He spent 3.5 seconds.
He had a lot
actually
to cram into those last 2 or 3 seconds if he was going to retrieve himself.
Yes, a good point, but I don't agree
Very
with
good
it.
point.
So, Tony, you have an incorrect challenge, and you have 5 seconds still, skating on thin ice, starting now.
I was at Streatham Ice Rink not long ago and saw Tim Rice zooming...
Tony Hawk, speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point, and with other points in the round, has moved forward. He's taken the lead now, just ahead of Graham Norton, and then Jenny Eclair and Tim Rice in that order. And Tony, your turn to begin, and we are in Southampton, that illustrious city here with its famous docks. But not far away is the New Forest. Tell us something about it in just a minute, starting now.
I think that the New Forest is so much more preferable to the old one, which used to be there, which didn't have self-raking leaves or computerized wild horses, as the present forest has. I believe historically that William the Conqueror...
Tim challenge.
I think we had 2 I believes.
Yes? Yes.
Could well have
Well,
done,
listen, Tim, you have 43 seconds. You tell us something about the New Forest, starting now.
I'm very interested to know exactly when the New Forest got going, and the lads at the time said, let's call this the New Forest, not thinking that it would still be around in the year 2001, when it ought really now to be called at least the fairly middle-aged forest, something that Jenny Eclair would get rather worked up about. But it's still called the New Forest, and I think we should respect it for that nomen.
Jenny challenge.
He did say called twice. Called and called. He might say it 3 times. Keep saying it every other word. Called, called, called.
He repeated call.
He did.
Yes. 19 seconds, the New Forest, starting now.
They do have ponies that look like John Bon Jovi with long fringes dangling into their liquid brown eyes. How I would like to take one of them little horses home with me and feed it straw, green apples and other equine treats. I don't know much about the green forest, but it is green, it is green.
Yes, it is very green, yes. Tim got in first. Tim, challenge.
Total collapse.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hesitation, that's all. 5 seconds, Tim. The New Forest, starting now.
The New Forest is home to so many wonderful examples of wildlife.
Tim was speaking as the whistle went, and with other points in the round he's left forward. He's now equal in the lead with Tony Hawks. Graham Norton, your turn to begin. The subject, the problem page. Tell us something about the problem page. Already laughing. You talk on that subject in this game, starting now.
When I was a teenager, problems were so much worse than they are today. Now you just write to Dear Deirdre, or some such lone person.
Tony Hawk's challenge.
Well, deviation, if you write to Dear Deirdre, you'd have to write Dear Deirdre.
Have been using as a form of endearment and saying you could write to Dear Deirdre, even though people do talk about people in that sense that way, don't they? 48 seconds, the problem page still with you, Graham, starting now.
The problem page in any book is one that is stuck to the next one. Ooh, you think. I can't figure it out.
Tim has challenged. Tim,
2 1s.
There were 2 1s there, yes.
Oh, that's such a small word, Tim.
I know. But in just
It hardly seems worrying about, does it?
But it's correct in just a minute, so Tim, you have a correct challenge. And 40 seconds, the problem page, starting now.
You've all heard of good King Wenceslas and his brave, sweet young page that trod in the footsteps every sod which the saint had printed. What is not so well known is that the previous occupant of this post was a real rotter of a page. He was a real problem page.
Tony, challenge.
Repetition of real.
Yes, a real
rotter and a real problem, I'm afraid.
It's quite long vowels in that one and everything.
Very good challenge, Tony.
Good the aggro setting in. Right, here we go. But a correct challenge to Tony. 24 seconds, the problem page, Tony, starting now.
I used to write a problem page in a magazine in which I outlined all my problems, and people wrote in and suggested what I could do about getting them right. And I had some wonderful letters, I have to say. There was a woman from Colchester who suggested that I got out more. And this is what I did. And I went to the town where she lived and pulled all the flowers out of her front.
So Tony Hawk, speaking as a whistle-wing, gained that extra point and has gone into the lead ahead of Tim Rice and then Graham Norton and Jenny Eclair in that order. And Jenny, your turn to begin. Another phrase for you this time. Flying off the handle. Starting now.
I'm good at this. I like to do it every day. The only form of exercise I ever get. Oh, it's a very good aerobic workout. Stomping up and down the stairs, slamming doors, biting carpets. I'm very easily wound up. All anyone needs to say to me is, have you put on weight? And then watch me go like a mad Exocet missile on heat.
Tim, you challenge first. Hesitation.
There was a bit of
40 seconds. Flying off the handle, starting now.
Flying off the handle is something I hardly ever do. If somebody insults me by saying I look old or tired, I accept it very, very...
It's a tough game. Tony, you got in first. Very, very. 31 seconds. Flying off the handle, starting now.
I saw a wasp on a teapot once, and it was on the spout, but I thought it's only a question of time before it moves around and flies off the hand. And I watched it for about 2 hours, and this didn't happen, and I was a little upset because I like real...
Graham Norton challenged.
Well, he did sort of stop.
He hesitated. 16 seconds. A correct challenge to you, Graham. Flying off the handle, starting now.
My career as an air steward was a happy but brief one. It didn't go that well in the cockpit when I discovered there was an amusing switch to play with, and I got frightened and did sojourn with the thing.
So, Graham Norton, speaking as a whistle went, gained an extra point. And others, he's now equal with Tim Rice. They're just 2 behind Tony Hawk's. Tim Rice, metaphors. A man who's written many words into many lyrics. Talk about metaphors in this game, starting now.
I never use metaphors. I would eschew...
Graham challenge.
What was that?
He eschews metaphors to the extent they couldn't talk about it. So you came in first, Graham. Hesitation. Metaphors with you. And 56 seconds starting now.
You have nice hair is a metaphor for a sweet God in heaven. You're really ugly.
Tony challenge.
No, it's a euphemism.
Yeah.
I'm afraid he's right, Graham.
Can you say to the audience, stop pretending to be clever now? You'd no idea you were going along with it till he told you. And you go, oh yes, stupid Irishman, of course.
Tony, 51 seconds. Metaphor starting now.
I see that what lies ahead of me in this minute is a long stretch of road with bandits by the side of it, waiting to pounce with their buzzers. We'll get hawks. That would be an example of a metaphor. But I can do many more and probably will if I can think of any, which I shall. For instance, ships in the night, 2 of us meeting. Oh, yes, with steam coming.
Tim Rice challenge.
Well, I thought he needed rescue, frankly. But they weren't metaphors, it was a string of cliches.
I think he was straying into the world of cliches, so I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, Tim. 25 seconds. Metaphors starting now.
Metaphors, an extremely difficult subject, and I want the audience to concentrate and follow very carefully. I'm going to divide my talk this evening into at least 5 or 6 parts. And we'll start with meta 2s, go on to meta 3s, and finally get to meta 4s. This is an extremely important...
Tony challenged.
Repetition of meta.
It's part of the word on the card.
No, it's not. Meta 2s and meta 3s.
That's all
And
one
meta...
word.
Are they?
Meta
Might be
4s.
hyphenated.
And meta's come out.
What
as
is a
word.
meta 2 then, by the way?
I don't know. Ask Tim Rice. He created it. Tim, I give you the benefit of the doubt again, and you have 9 seconds. Metaphors starting now.
This is such a gripping topic, I don't know where to begin to address it.
Graham challenge.
I just stopped him.
What is this anti-Rice campaign? I mean, it's...
No, he said he didn't know where to begin. It seemed pointless to let him flap on, didn't it?
Well, in just a minute, everybody flaps on as best they can.
It was deviation because he'd already begun quite some time ago and he knew how to.
Listen, I've seen both of you flap at different times, and if you call that flapping... 6 seconds, Tim. Metaphor starting now.
Mike.
Tony, you got in first.
I don't want it
Well,
anymore.
there's a hesitation clearly because he never wanted to talk on this subject in the first place.
But you've got in on a correct challenge at
Thank
last.
you.
5 seconds. Metaphor starting now.
My favourite metaphor is never walk towards a...
Jenny challenge.
That's not a metaphor.
No,
He's
you're
making
right,
it up. He's no clue. I've got one. I've been
Hesitation.
thinking for a whole minute.
No, it's a hesitation. It's all right.
Hesitation. That's what he did.
Yes, yes. Now, Jenny, you've got half a second. Do you want to actually give us a metaphor?
Yes, I've just thought it's taken the ants.
Well, that's meant to... Keep going for
got that
half a
bit.
second first till the whistle goes. Half a second starting now. And it didn't start for God.
Can I just say it? I don't care about points. I'm not.
Yeah, right.
I thought of a metaphor.
All right, Graham came in first with his
Can I
challenge.
please just
He
say
gets
my
a point for
metaphor?
speaking when the whistle should have gone. And Jenny's going to give us her metaphor starting now.
The ants are black pepper on the pavement.
What's it mean?
It's kind of you to indulge the ramblings of an old woman, isn't it?
It would have been better if you'd said there were so many specks on the pavement, they look like ants on black paper.
That's similar because you
no.
said that you weren't lying.
Even I knew that.
Not according to the Oxford English Dictionary. Right. So, Jenny, we give you a bonus point for your metaphor, which some of us don't think was a metaphor. And, Graham, you got a point for speaking when the whistle should have gone. And we move on to the next subject. And Tony Hawks, it's your turn to begin, and the subject is stage fright. Give us your opinion on stage fright starting now.
Picture the scene, a man stooped over a toilet bowl, retching to such a degree because he is terrified of the Southampton audience. Nicholas, I said, do not fear them, they will love you. Don't panic.
Tim, you challenged.
I thought there was a pretty big gap there. You could have driven a truck.
Well, it was so devious that I would have given
and
it to you
it was devious.
anyway.
Very,
Yes.
very unfair to you, Mr. Chairman, as well.
Well, it was utterly devious.
Yes.
Try retching more than vomiting, really vomiting.
Anyway, Tim, you have a correct challenge. 44 seconds, stage fright starting now.
I remember a tale which is a very long and rather boring.
Tony challenge.
We've only got a minute.
A bonus point to Tony because the audience enjoyed the interruption, but it was an incorrect challenge. So, Tim, you have another point for being interrupted, and you keep the subject. 41 seconds, stage fright starting now.
There was this actor who was so scared that he would get his line wrong. All he had to say was, "It is," after the John Gielgud, playing Henry II, or possibly Richard III, said, "Is that my Lord Worcester over yon hill?" And he just had to say that one line, which I gave you.
Jenny challenge.
He said line twice.
I did have one.
Yes,
Had
it was
one
only
line.
one
Well, you'll
line,
never
but
get
you
the end of
said
the joke
twice.
yet. You'll never get the end of the joke.
I think a lot of us know it, actually.
Is that the one you advertised as long and boring?
Jenny got in first. 22 seconds, stage fright, Jenny, starting now.
Pre-show nerves and stage fright are different. The difference being different and
And
different.
different, yes, different
I
and
think
different.
you'll find.
Yes, you're right, Jenny. 18 seconds, Jenny, on stage fright, starting now.
Stephen Fry had a West End wobbly, didn't he? When he was meant to be doing Simon Gray's Cellmates, went running off to
Graham challenge first.
No. Well, he didn't run off to... did he?
Graham, you have 10 seconds on stage fright, starting now.
My career as a highwayman was a brief one, because I suffered from stage fright. The lovely coach would come down the hill, and I think this guy...
So Graham Norton, speaking as the whistle, gained that extra point. and he's now in the lead, but only one ahead of Tim Rice and Tony Hawks, equal in second place. And they are not many points ahead of Jenny Eclair. Tony, it's your turn to begin. And the subject is off the cuff. Something that happens in this game an awful lot. Talk about it starting now.
Speaking off the cuff is a vital ingredient if you are going to do well on this programme. As Nicholas said when he introduced this round, and may I say, what a fine chairman he is. I don't think people have said this enough. We may have to talk on any subject that is thrown at it. It could be visiting the doctor, it could be limerick.
Jenny, a challenge.
Could be.
It could be. Repetition of could be. So, Jenny, coming in, last round, great flourish. 39 seconds available, off the cuff, starting now.
I have realised whilst playing this game, just a minute, I am no good at off the cuff. I need pen, paper and a decent script writer. I'm not sure where the phrase came from. Was it when, in the olden days, music hall comics forgot their jokes and wrote them on their cuffs? This is a trick I used to great effect when I was a teenager doing my A-levels at school. I scribbled the dates of the Boer War up and down my forearms down.
And Graham Norton challenge.
Is it some sort of fashion war we haven't heard of? The Boer War.
I know her pronunciation was a bit strange, but under the pressure of keeping going and looting her cuffs, I think that we did know what she meant, and she did mean the Boer War.
Sorry, I'm a fool.
We enjoyed the interjection, but Jenny, you have a point, of course, too, for an incorrect challenge, and you're surging forward, and and you have 11 seconds off the cuff, starting now.
Or maybe it came from, when...
Tim tries challenge.
Two came from.
It came from before, yes. And so, Tim, you've got him with 8 seconds on off the cuff, starting now.
I find that as one gets older, you get much better at being off the cuff. These young things just haven't got a clue.
So, as I said, it was to be the last round. Let me give you the final situation. Jenny got a nice lot of points in that rounding, but she's still finished up just in 4th place. But no. Tony was just ahead of her with 18 points, and then Tim Rice was just a couple ahead of him. But 2 points ahead again was Graham Norton. So Graham Norton's the winner this week. Thank you very much indeed. It only remains for me to say a deep thank you to these wonderful players of the game. In the sequence I see them now, Tony Hawks, Graham Norton, Jenny Eclair and Tim Rice. I thank Janet Staplehurst for helping with the score and blowing her whistle so delicately. And of course we thank our producer Claire Jones for her contribution in making sure that it all comes together. And we are indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this game originally, and we are deeply indebted to this audience in Southampton who've cheered us on our way magnificently. From you, from the panel, from me, Nicholas Parsons, goodbye. Tune in the next time we play Just a Minute.